Hey, thanks everyone. I just flipped on recording. I'm Jeremy Watson. I'm a product manager here at GitLab. I'm talking with Mech, our director of quality engineering, about analytics in GitLab. And Mech was just talking a little bit about how he sees kind of Periscope, which is a visualization tool that we use right now to kind of as a stopgap for some of our visualization needs here in GitLab, and how he sees kind of that kind of like living alongside GitLab kind of longer term.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy. So Looker and Sisense right now is the single source of truth for everybody, and this is important. From the engineering side, we are invested in Dogfoodie. We want to add value into our product. So we have analytics features, and with also insights, the visualization moving as a category into analytics and making that even stronger. Our end goal from us and my team is to reduce the reliance on Periscope by, if we can mature our charts enough and the analytics engine and the query and the charts and the value and the engine calculation can be inside GitLab, we could have a CSV export mechanism, and then we can load that as a sheet load into Sisense and Periscope. So as time goes on, we increase our maturity. The value, the calculation is inside GitLab. But if we can make sure that the data is the same, Periscope or whatever third-party tooling that we decide to use can just be a rendering engine. So the visualization is the same, but we slowly direct a value to GitLab. And that is a pro for us, because we can say that to our customers, hey, we use a third-party visualization engine just for show for this section of the metrics. It doesn't have to be everything, but for engineering, I think we can do it. And then, but everything else is calculated inside GitLab, and we have integration points to other third-party visualization engines. So if you have something else, yeah, sure, you can use that, but then you can just do this because it lives with the code, it lives with the merge request, it lives with the labels. Output the artifact as the high-level CSV. That's your dashboard. But everything else, like diving in, filtering, drilling down deeper, we can make it as part of the analytics roadmap. So with that, I'll give it back to Jeremy.
So we have a new product leader who's joining in a couple of weeks to talk a little bit about and kind of lead us here in analytics. I know some of the background, but for the benefit of him and the recording, what are some of the barriers that are kind of keeping us married to Periscope right now and forcing us to use that as kind of a visualization tool and a reporting tool, and not able to Dogfood this in GitLab?
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So I think we really need to solve the use cases of high value proposition on our side first. So like the high level engineering metrics, what can we use the current, for example, the VSM or Insights for, and solve the business use case and have it dog-fooded everywhere. Have team dedicated dashboards that adds value to the leaders in that group, hear feedback from them, and then iterate. I think the key to make things mature is extreme dog-fooding. I think all the features in GitLab that are mature is a result of us just dog-fooding. This is the same thing I say to my team. I'm proud that the quality engineering department hasn't spent $1 for external third-party tools. Like we use GitLab. Even if it's hard, we use GitLab. For example, the test case management system right now. There's other providers, but hey, use GitLab projects, use issues. Just use our product. If there's any additional thing, add it. But you need to live and breathe inside GitLab for you to be able to see the bigger picture, add value, versus just being distracted by some other third-party tooling.
So one of the key, we're investing more in this idea of value stream management, and we've rebranded Cycle Analytics as Value Stream Analytics, and we're going to make that the framework kind of our analytics roadmap. My understanding is that no one is really actively using Cycle Analytics at the moment, or Value Stream Analytics. Internally at GitLab. Why do you think that is? Because I agree with you when you talk about dogfooding. And so as a product manager, I want to say, how the heck can we dogfood VSA internally and start iterating on this, but without usage? we can't start dog fooding. So how
Right.
do we get to the first step, and how do I make this feature really useful for you and your team?
I think the iteration, the 2080, is accuracy of the data and the ability to look at a time span. And this is where I'm excited that Insights is moving in, because now we have a high level view, like analytics, crunching numbers. This is like the exec view, like, hey, this is hotspot. But there's also the other drill down view where you need to see raw data based on the filters you give, and like, hey, is it matching this, right? I think giving confidence to users that that single number is correct, it, from the analytics standpoint, is important. And providing users with a way to, it's we call it back test in the world of finance, right? You have this number, but hey, is it correct? Let's like go back 5 months and like roughly look, yeah, it's correct. And to even go further, maybe we can provide like back test features. Like, hey, this is the chart. Like, what do you want to see? Like, add some filters. Okay, the numbers match. Like the numbers that I crunch in the time series chart, the numbers that the analytics top level view, they match. Yeah, hey, I have confidence. I'll use this. And then moving forward is, how do you solve all the other charts that we have in Periscope? Like cycle time, but then there's like mean, there's like P95, that's like P99, and like we are interested in the P95s because those are the spikes that causes the average to go up. How can I drill down to that number, find the MR, find the people there that is going through this hardship so I can help them, find the job that's affecting it. What can we do? So like, I think those are really, I think I mentioned like 3 main points, but I think from my point of view, that is key to the success of the wide adoption of analytics.
That's really helpful. I'm going to share some like a quick walkthrough of. So we have we have the customer advisory board coming up in a couple weeks, and then we have some analyst touch points that we are going to share our perspective on analytics. I'm going to just give you like a 5-minute walkthrough of kind of my perspective on this. This is super unrefined, so like please, caveat, I'll keep that in mind. But the feedback I'd love to get for you is based off of what you just shared. Do you think this sets us on the right path? And B, given the vision, is this something that you see you using as an engineering director at GitLab? So the audience for this deck is basically someone who is unfamiliar with our direction for analytics and wants to understand kind of our perspective and our strategy. And in my perspective, like it takes more than just being like just doing Scrum in one place to call yourself like an agile enterprise, right? Like you have an organization that's like, oh, we're so agile because we're doing Scrum. And the real picture is that no matter what organization you're in, like it takes more than just doing Scrum in one part of the value stream to call yourself like an agile organization. That's why GitLab is so powerful, right? Because we have this single application viewpoint. It's like from end to end, like we're putting this in a single application so that you can become like a truly kind of agile organization by having this visibility in all places in a single application. And that's the things that I hear from customers, which is like, I don't know what the heck the business value of the things that we're doing is, because we're working with tools that just focus on one small part of the picture. I need to be able to solve problems for our developers before they happen. I want to find the bottlenecks, and I want to be able to find groups that are doing really well, see what they're doing really well, and proliferate that the rest of my organization. And the thing that resonates with me is like the ideas in Six Sigma, which are like, we need to find what the problem is, we need to be able to measure it, analyze it, improve it, and then put controls in place that prevent that from happening again. So at the moment, like I'm focused on 2 and 3 right now. And then eventually we're going to go to 4, which is like, we're going to get smarter about finding things to specific things you can do to improve. And then eventually in a few years, we'll probably get to number 5, which is we're going to be able to have like these controls that you'll be able to place in the product to prevent things from happening again. And you can just iterate and continuously improve. We have this cool, framework of how we think about DevOps. But if you just lay this out in a value chain, you get something like this, which is, right now, value stream analytics / cycle analytics talks about this in a different way. And I think that we need to put this DevOps framework directly in the product, where you start with plan, you end with deploying to production and monitoring that in production. But the real benefit is what comes out after that, which is the output. You're generating some type of business value for like your organization. You're generating some type of customer outcome. You're delivering something good. And that's what I would love to see us move towards. So, one thing that we can do is like that value stream analytics tries to do is just show the time spent in each stage, which is like the eventually I'd love to see this broken down into like waste and time and actual like active time. But right now we're just thinking about this in terms of just general time in the stage. So the change that I want to see us move towards is I want to see this directly in the actual product. So on the left-hand side, this is where we want value stream analytics to kind of move towards, which is we have our DevOps lifecycle explicitly at the top of the page. We have like the concept of what we're going to use DORA metrics in terms of like the output or the heart or the end thing that we're delivering, which is we're improving our lead time, we're improving cycle time, we're deploying frequently. That's not a direct associated with like I'd love to see us move towards like actual dollars in terms of like the things that our software process delivering. But for now, we're going to use this as kind of the output. But then I want to be able to show over time, how are we getting better or worse? Like here's our lead time and how that's kind of changing by stage based off of how we define the product. And we get some benefit out of the box because we have a single application GitLab. But there's some organizations that are going to need customizability, and we should be able to offer that as part of this. But overall, like I want to just see this stuff over time, and we're just not telling that story right now. But what I want to also do is like the next question is like, then I want to be able to show trends, which is like, cool. Create is going up in terms of timeline. What does that mean? And I want to be able to allow people to drill deeper, which is for each one of those stages, I should be able to click into, planning or create or verify, and then to see like, oh, this went up. Why? Tell me more. Because any improvement made anywhere besides the bottleneck is an illusion. Like, that is your constraint in your development process. Like if you have a bottleneck, the thing that you need to focus on is finding it and then alleviating it. And so like, that's where like I see, so right now, like for planning analytics, that's where I see like insights, for instance. Like one thing that like I think is one of the killer features that like insights allows us to do is defect tracking. People want to be able to see like median time to resolve. I want to be able to track issues and like my workflow across the instance. In Insights, you can do all of this right now. I think that there's things that we need to do in the future around like automating issue workflows so that, you have, guarantees that like these charts are trustworthy and that we know that people are adhering to them. I know a lot of the work that your team does is trying to enforce like the use of these like the labels so that we can trust the data. I think there's more we could do there to make sure that, we have like triage functionality in the product so that you don't have to question your data or like whether or not people are labeling things the right way, and you're able to see like the P95s and the P99s based off of this, which is like, okay, I have plan, I can see kind of like how people are scheduling issues and like our capacity. Let me double click into that, and I think insights can be a part of that picture to say like, well, here's exactly what's going on in terms of defects over time, whether or not you're improving, whether you're decreasing. Does this like resonate at all so far?
Yeah, I think this is great. One thing I want to call out is I love slide 5. You can go back to that for a little bit.
Sure.
I think what you're looking at this is slide 5 and 6. You're looking at this at the whole stage, but I also see the pattern for inside analytics as well. If you go to slide 5, I think
slide 5.
Slide 5, yes. So measure and analyze.
This one? Which slide are we talking about? Sorry.
The one that you have the Six Sigma?
Ah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think analytics itself also kind of fits this pattern because we have measure and analyze, and it maps to what I said earlier in the beginning of the call, where we need to measure, and I think measure is the raw data, like the time series chart. Analyze is the high value top-down exec summary, like what is the hotspot. Like this single number means high impact to your business. You need to just understand these 10 numbers. And then improve is like, how do we continue to iterate and improve on the data, drilling down. So when you get the number, you can drill down from analyze to measure, and from measure to even down to the issue level. Like, what is that issue that is like causing this spike in time? Or what is that MR? And then the job that's causing this spike in time, and then like iterate over again. So I think this design pattern kind of maps globally as well, like at the higher end of the DevOps lifecycle, and it actually in the other parts of our stages as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that really resonates with me as well. And I think that we're focused on number 2 and then number 3 right now. And like, if you go deeper into like create, for instance, this is like, this is you can see like we're starting to think about this a little bit with, I want to be able to double click into create. Okay, our developers are less productive over time. Why is that? Well, I want to be able to click on that and see clear recommendations in terms of like, here's actually the change in like your code review time is going up because there's more MRs that are kind of sitting idle. What's happening with my review time? So drill down deeper and deeper and deeper until I find the bottleneck and the source of like why things are happening. And I think that I de-emphasize things like actually like control, like having controls in place and actually being able to do something about it. I think that humans can do that for now, and that's fine. And we can worry about that, about automating that, getting clever with that later on. We can worry about predictability, like predictive analytics, or using ML to predict this. I just want to be able to like allow people say that value stream analytics is a framework. You can drill down into different areas until you find the bottleneck and the source of why things are changing. Either they're changing really positively and we want to call that out so other teams can do that, or things are getting longer and taking longer and getting bogged down, and want to find exactly what is driving that. And then so that a human can go in, an engineering manager can unblock that. But overall, that's the direction we're going.
Yeah, I'm actually happy that you brought up plan analytics, because that's actually 80% of what the current insights capability is. It's like time series data, issue, and labels. We have a capability to render merge requests with labels, but that's probably a facet of create. And as we mature analytics, right, I think the vision will be clear where this analytics and this chart is like it's like plan-ish, and this chart is like create-ish, and then your overall analysis umbrella comes over like, hey, this is like piping up to the engine that gives us business value analysis from the top. So I think it's great. The other thing I want to mention before we run out of time is this vision maps really closely to what the engineering productivity team was doing, started doing last year, which is there's two areas. One is labeling, which is the accuracy of the data. That's the input. The output is insights, which the first prototype was a quality dashboard. So input, output. And I think we kind of have a clear line of sight into what the output piece looks like, with like everything being in the same direction strategic-wise with analytics. But that's the output. The input is triage. And I think this is near and dear to Sid, because we have a GitLab triage project. Customers are using it. It's free. Really hard to use. Well, it's a bit challenging to use, because then you need to like define your own rules and all that. The next iteration that we have is try serverless. So we're starting to combine things so that you don't have to wait for the next day. It's based on events. Right now, if you add a Zendesk link, it would just automatically add a customer label. So we plan to evolve that. Going further, why don't we just have, and this is me, like in looking at the big picture, it might not be realistic, but at the label level, why can't we just define rules there instead? Instead of having bots and automation YAML files, complex configurations, the rule to triage this should just be mapped directly when you create the label. Like, I created this label. I want every, say, second week of the month, you run this rule. This is a condition. If it matches this condition, apply this label to this issue. Apply this label to MRs. Save it. At the back end, we integrate with serverless and just have that like, spin up resource and run that rule when you create that rule at the label level. So I think that's like converging and usability. But I think that's where we should be headed in terms of adding value to the product.
I think you're so right, and I know we're out of time, but I didn't know how you would react when I talked about like triage and label hygiene. But I know that it's something that your team spends a lot of time on. And if you get that wrong, if your inputs are wrong, then you can't trust your output, and you can't trust the quality of your data. So I know that we've introduced like customizable cycle analytic stages. I'm not convinced that's the right way to go because of the fact that it might need to be at the issue board level so that you can define this logic there and be guaranteed that you understand how your logic works. Maybe it's not being applied, but maybe your logic is wrong, but at least you know what the rules are and you can trust the data that's coming out. So cool. That's really helpful. We'll focus more on the inputs as well. But overall, this is a great conversation, Megan. It's always great to see you. I'm going to flip the recording off for now.